Hey, how you doing? It is 26th of July 2022, Notcast 222. Today, as you can tell by the title and also by the t-shirt, I'm going to be talking about Depeche Mode, or more correctly, the terrible solo years between 2003 and 2004. So that would have seen the release of Martin Gore's Counterfeit album, well, Counterfeit 2, Dave Gahan's first solo release, Paper Monsters, the Dave Gahan live DVD, and in 2004 the first Depeche Mode remix collection. This was a really unusual time to be a fan of the band. I can't say I particularly enjoyed it. I mean, to all intents and purposes, I thought Depeche Mode were over at this point, and I thought that I was going to be living in the world of ever diminishing returns of solo stuff, where you could clearly see that the band perhaps worked best together. Um, it was a dark time, to be honest. The most recent Depeche Mode album, and what felt like could have been the final Depeche Mode album, had been 2001's underperforming uh, Exciter, a least like the Depeche Mode album that has the least appropriate title out of any Depeche Mode album, because it definitely didn't excite anybody in any way, shape, or form. I think, as I've said in the previous episode, it really should be called Bora, you know. Now, obviously, Michael Jackson's Thriller is called Thriller, and one of the things is it thrills you, rightly or wrongly, it does. Um, Exciter does not excite anybody apart from possibly an accountant who has a quarterly annual sales pitch to make. Early 2003, Depeche Mode had gone very, very quiet, as was normally their way. They'd pop their heads above the parapets for about a year, every 3 or 4 years. They'd get a new studio album, you get the inevitable tour, you'd get the tour where maybe 3 to 4 songs from the new album were played live and then never seen again. Maybe you got 1 or 2 songs that would be added into the set list for years to come. Um, it became effectively Depeche's modus operandi up until this year, and obviously with Fletch having died less than two months ago, it's still a little strange as to what, or a little unclear as to what's going on. At this point, we shouldn't expect anything from Depeche Mode. It's fair to say maybe the time has come for the band to come to an end. Who knows? Let that be the issue and subject of another podcast or a notcast by another person. Today, of course, then the first thing would have been the first Martin Gore full length album and a couple of singles that went with it. He released the Counterfeit 2 album. Now I've turned the CD booklet around because I think that's a better cover, which of course is absolutely fine until I get to the point where I have to kind of show you what the sleeve actually looks like for Counterfeit, which is this here. That is the sleeve for the Counterfeit release. That's the actual cover. I don't think that's a particularly good cover. I've never thought that actually having pictures of the artists on the front is generally a good idea. As you can tell, really, a picture of a millionaire staring moodily at a non-specific thing somewhere in the distance is never a good album cover. It doesn't communicate anything. I think the only band that actually really been any good at having themselves on the album covers are Pet Shop Boys, because they generally play dress up and become part of the scenery around them, whereas otherwise it's just moody blokes just standing, 4 of them in the desert, all looking at a slightly different place. Yes, that's exciting. So, Martin Gore's first proper solo album is Counterfeit 2, which is a strange record, primarily because if your main skill is as a songwriter, then the first thing that you do with your first full length solo album is to do an album of cover versions. Doesn't really lend itself to people going, well, what is this record all about? Obviously, also, the covers album can be seen as the very last bastion of being creatively bankrupt. Metallica did a covers album in 1998. Duran Duran did one, of which we will never speak. Flaming Lips have done a number of covers albums, but they've generally covered a whole album in one go. And I don't like covers albums at all. I think cover versions have their place in a band and an artist's discography, but to do a full covers album is a little cynical, unless all you do is covers. Obviously, some artists, Elvis Presley, for example, almost everything they did was very traditional in terms of songs that were written by other people, and then people became performers as opposed to artists. It was only really with the advent of the Beatles that started writing their own songs in the 60s that the convention of artists writing their own material became really kind of like more prevalent and more thoroughly understood in the world. And of course, Dave Gahan, as a performer, had been performing songs written by other people all through his life. The first song which he had written that he'd released was the first single off the Paper Monsters album, Dirty Sticky Floors, which we will get to in a minute, because first we have to talk about the Counterfeit album. There was a single that was released from Counterfeit. It came on 3 formats. Here are 2 of them: the CD single and the dreaded DVD single. There was a 12-inch as well, which had some remixes on. The CD single here featured a cover as its lead track of David Essex' Stardust, and on the B-side a remix by Stuart Walker, whoever that is, of a track called I Cast a Lonesome Shadow. And then the third track is an acoustic cover of Life is Strange, which I think is a T-Rex track. And the DVD single features the video for a track called Left Hand Luke and the Beggar Boys. I think that's a T-Rex track as well, could be wrong. Written by Mark Bolan, yep. And then Stardust and an Atomic remix of Stardust as well, which kind of made you feel that perhaps this wasn't the most fantastically prolific of artists. Fair to say. I think Counterfeit 2 sounds exactly like an album made of Depeche Mode B-sides, when Depeche Mode were doing covers. So if a band had run out of songs at the end of a session, we have to do a B-side for a single, we'll do a cover version, we'll get Martin to sing it as per Route 66. Really, Counterfeit 2 sounds like it could have been an album of Depeche Mode cover versions sung by Martin that were B-sides around this period. The studio people that we had for Counterfeit 2 are well known to Depeche Mode fans. So Andrew Philpott, who is a production producer, mixer, engineer, synthesizer guy, and also Andrew worked on the Exciter and Playing the Angel albums. I think did some stuff in preparing the band's live shows. There was also Peter Gordino, who played keyboards, sometimes bass or guitar, and provided backing vocals for Depeche Live from 1998 until now. So the album has been produced by Andrew Philpott and Paul Freegard, recorded at Electrical Ladyboy Studios, which is Martin Gore's home studio, which is where all of his demo sessions now take place and where he writes all of his material. So this is a kind of like a version of that. There was a backwards piano solo on Tiny Girls played by Peter Gordino, who also appeared at the live shows. But this has 11 songs on it, and the cover versions are respectively Led Zeppelin's In My Time of Dying. It sounds very, very different to the Led Zeppelin original. David Essex's Stardust, I Cast a Lonesome Shadow, In My Other World, which I think, let me have a quick look and see who wrote that. I think that's Julie Cruz, actually, who obviously very closely associated with David Lynch. Love a Man by Nick Cave. Also, by the way, Love a Man was recorded by Metallica for their Garage album in 1998. Yeah, had a visit from the neighbour, which we weren't expecting, so I'm going to just shut the door and carry on. Then we've got By This River, Lost in the Stars, Oh My Love, Das Lied von Einsamen Mädchen. I don't know what that is, that's German obviously. Tiny Girls, and Velvet Underground's Candy Says. Now Counterfeit 2 is exactly what it is. It's a solo album by a guy from Depeche Mode, all full of cover versions, featuring some of his extended Depeche Mode compatriots performing on there. It sounds exactly like Depeche Mode B-sides and cover versions. It's good, it's not great, and if you kind of think, oh, I'd really like to hear some songs that sound like Depeche Mode B-sides, if you missed these at the time when they came out, which was 2003, fully understand why that would have been the case, because Depeche Mode was slowly turning at that point into I think what you could describe as a legacy act. They were more famous for what they had done than what they were doing. And every band gets to that stage. Some of them get to it sooner than others. Kraftwerk have been in that stage for about 40 years, which is bizarre and unusual, but so be it. And here's some photos of Martin's record collection, the album title, and so on and so forth. And with one of the lovely things about these booklets, of course, is that if you've got a booklet, and I really appreciate this in album booklets, is you can kind of fold them out so that the record tells you a different story. So the cover of Counterfeit could be that, but I'm going to refold the cover so that it looks like that. I think that's a better cover myself. I don't like the cover to the album as it is, but Counterfeit's not a bad album. It's just listen to it and go, oh yeah, Depeche Mode sounds like B-sides, and there you are. There was also Martin's to date only solo tour, which was 8 whole shows, so really wore himself out. I think 1 show in London, which I went to at the London Astoria, 2 in the America, and 5 or so in Europe, presumably in places like Berlin and Hamburg and Paris and Milan. And one of those shows, Milan, was filmed and released on the Loverman EP and a Live in Milan DVD, which is here, which I will get to in a moment. The solo tour was, I thought it was really, really good, actually. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, Depeche's live sets feature moments where Martin takes the lead for 2 or 3 songs in a row, normally sings maybe 3 or 4 songs during the course of a night, mostly singles that he's sung on. And obviously, Martin's got that slightly trillier voice, as a different register from Dave, which is slightly wider. Technically, just as good a singer, just in a different range. So songs like A Question of Lust, Somebody, Home, for example, all solo singles, or more correctly, solo vocals by Martin, which became singles. And on the tour, Martin sang a combination of cover versions and Depeche tracks. So, for example, a typical set list would feature The Sweetest Perfection from Violator, In Your Room, I'm Walking in My Shoes from Songs of Faith and Devotion, Never Turn Your Back on Mother Earth, which is from the first Counterfeit EP, but also as a Depeche Mode flexi disc. Love Thieves, which is the only time it's been performed live, by the way, by any member of Depeche. And then the encore would feature normally A Question of Lust, Home, and Shake the Disease, or something like that. So it was a good experience, actually, really useful, really glad that I went. Around about the same time, Dave Gahan did his I'm Doing My Own Thing as well, and released his first solo LP, Paper Monsters. This has just been repressed on vinyl by Mute Records, by the way, but this is a 2003 CD and DVD edition of the album. Paper Monsters was prefaced with the single Dirty Sticky Floors, an awful name for a single, and as was often the case, these things came in a collector's 3-part pack, that you got by sending in a mailing card to 3 Alveston Place in Leamington, to somehow encourage you to buy the 3 singles to push the song a little bit further up the charts. So, for example, you had the radio mix of Dirty Sticky Floors, and then a track Stand Up, and another one called Maybe, a remix of Dirty Sticky Floors, Stand Up, and a remix of Stand Up and a remix of Maybe on there. I think this is the CD single possibly, and here is the DVD single. Again, another truly terrible format, which I'm glad has gone the way of all things, featuring the video, a remix of Dirty Sticky Floors, and an acoustic version of a track called Black and Blue Again. Now, Black and Blue Again appeared on the Paper Monsters album. The Paper Monsters album, I got to be honest about this, I don't like this record at all. Every song is a Gahan co-writes. It's the first time that he's released any material that he's been writing, so he's learning to be a songwriter. You think about most people's very, very early attempts at songwriting. Some of the Martin Gore songs on A Broken Frame, some of the Vince Clarke songs on Speak and Spell, some of Alan Wilder's songs. Those early songs don't reach the full potential of their songwriting abilities. It takes a while to learn to be absolutely great at a skill, any skill, be it golf or songwriting. And the early songs, and you can hear the early songs on the Dirty Sticky Floor single and Paper Monsters, is Dave Gahan learning to be who he is and not quite sure of what his artistic identity is going to be. Now, the band that he had around him and the musicians that he had around him, Knox Chandler was on guitar. Knox had been with the Creatures and Susie and the Banshees, and I think he played with the Psychedelic Furs as well. On bass, he had Martin Lenoble, who had played with Jane's Addiction and Porno for Pyros. Great bass player, by the way. On drums, I think it was Victor Indrizzo, who had played on the Ultra album on the track Useless. And I can't remember who the keyboard player is. But this album is an unusual solo record, and I'll be really honest about it. I think that if Dave Gahan hadn't got Depeche Mode to go back to, there wouldn't have been a second solo album, because this album was not good enough, and it didn't sell enough quantities to sustain and support a solo career on its own. The solo stuff that Dave Gahan does, I'm conflicted about it, because clearly he believes it, he likes doing it, he wants to do it, he's under no compulsion to do it, and yet I listen to it and it leaves me cold, all of it, because the musical backing that he's working with is far less personal than Depeche. You listen to Depeche Mode, and the instrumentation and the songwriting is weird, it's interesting, there's little quirky bits in it, and it's something that makes you come back to it again and again. Whereas for here, the songwriting is more functional, it's more anonymous, it's got less personality in it. It's perfectly cromulent, it's well made, but the flavour is not particularly strong. So it's like eating a really well made but very bland lasagna. As you kind of listen to the song and you go, well, it's most definitely a song. It's got a verse, it's got choruses, but you don't listen to it and go, oh, that's definitely Dave there, or even, oh, that's definitely person X or person Y. You listen to it and the songwriting just isn't that distinctive. It doesn't leap out to you. There's no quirky little bits that you listen to and go, yes, only he could do that. You get the feeling that perhaps some of the songs that are on this album are songs that could have been written by anybody at any time in history. Songs like Walking in My Shoes, Halo, even things like Barrel of a Gun. You listen to them and go, that's Martin Gore. That could only be Martin Gore. No one else would think of putting that lyric and that melody and that music in that place and make that sound with that noise and do that. Whereas here, frankly, if it didn't have Dave Gahan's vocals on it, and someone said, which big band is this a solo album for? You listen to it and go, Morrissey? Sting? I don't know. It's like one of those things. Roger Daltrey, maybe? I don't know. And that's where, the problem with going solo is that not only if you're in a band are you more than the sum of the parts, but sometimes if you're outside of the band, you're less than the individual parts. So it's less than a third of Depeche Mode, if that makes sense. So that, the music isn't weird or interesting. It's functional. It does the job. But this album is not an exciting record to listen to. Listen to it and go, it sounds like Depeche Mode B-sides sung by Dave that aren't cover versions. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like songs that weren't quite good enough to fit on a Depeche Mode album. Sorry, Dave. And of course, with the next Depeche Mode album, Playing the Angel, released in 2005, there were a number of Dave Gahan written songs on there. So songs like, Suffer Well, for example, Nothing's Impossible. And I started to get the feeling that the best of the songs which Dave was writing were reserved for the Depeche Mode albums, and the other songs went on the solo records. And frankly, given the quality of some of the songs on these solo albums, I'm not surprised by that assessment at all. So this album came out, it did functionally well, it didn't sell fantastically. Obviously the sales of albums were starting to decline dramatically. So for example, Exciter probably sold just over 1 million, Playing the Angel sold just over 1 million, maybe. Sounds of the Universe sold 950,000. If you think maybe 1 in 5 people would have bought this, then this would have sold 100,000-ish across the whole of the world. Now, Dave definitely played to more than 100,000 people on his resultant tour. And there are 3 songs on this album that I think are quite good that would fit into a Depeche Mode album. So those songs are Dirty Sticky Floors, I Need You, and Bottle Living. Stays pretty good as well. Hidden Houses is pretty good, but pretty good isn't really good enough in my opinion. It's not good enough to rely on. It's not good enough to make a career out of. And so obviously he's gone for the Anton Corbijn visuals there. So it looks like, a Depeche Mode-ish release. It's got that kind of weird, unusual typography that is one of the Anton Corbijn trademarks. It's got that black and white, super saturated view around it. You know, you look at that and if you didn't know any better, you say, well, that looks like Depeche Mode, doesn't it? DM, okay, there's a block there. This version comes with the DVD as well. So in these days, in order to sell copies, before YouTube was a thing, bands would put DVDs in their albums and sell them for a couple of quid more. So you get a short film, largely a making of, which is all, oh, it's lovely, we're all working together, we're having a lovely time, we've made a wonderful record, please buy it. And then, you know, some videos. So for example, Dirty Sticky Floors gets a video on here. Then you get some video shoot footage, and you get acoustic performances of Hold On, A Little Piece, and yeah, a photo gallery. How exciting is that? And then Dave went on his tour. And the tour was reasonable. I saw one of the shows. I went to the Shepherd's Bush Empire, by the way. It later got a DVD release, Live Monsters, live at the Paris Olympia on the 5th of June. I think I saw him on the 9th of July at Shepherd's Bush Empire. This is a perfectly cromulent live release. Watching it, and the musicians are Dave and Knox Chandler, Victor Indrizzo, Vincent Jones is on keyboards, and Martin Linoble on bass. Vincent Jones is the only guy that I've not heard of before, not heard or seen. You know, I'm liking Susie and the Creatures. Then obviously I'm familiar with Knox, and liking Jones Addiction and Porno for Pyros, familiar with Martin Linoble, and Victor Indrizzo played drums on the Ultra album, of course. So there's a good lineage there. But again, one of the things that Dave was saying is he's promising, oh, I'll play rare cuts, I'll play things that you haven't heard, you know, I'll play the songs that Depeche Mode won't let me play. And so he plays the whole of his album, but not the B-sides. And then he also plays A Question of Time, Walking in My Shoes, Personal Jesus, I Feel You, Never Let Me Down Again. And on some dates he played Just Can't Get Enough or Enjoy the Silence. And kind of going, so those are the songs the band wouldn't let you play. Bullshit. But okay, and I mean it's really standard performance rock. Really, there's nothing exceptional about it. It's a completely capable band, play good songs quite well, but there's nothing about it that you watch and go, that's an incredible band. There's nothing about this show, and I felt this when I was watching it at Shepherd's Bush. I'm watching the singer from Depeche Mode because I can't see Depeche Mode. Not because I want to see the singer from Depeche Mode, but because if I want to hear Depeche Mode songs played by a member of Depeche Mode, well, I either go and see Martin Gore on his 8-day tour, or I go and see Dave Gahan on this, and I don't know if the band are going to play again or tour again or anything. It wasn't very good. Sorry, not very good at all. And I've not seen Dave Gahan in a solo capacity since. He's not played a huge amount of shows, but I've not seen them. And he followed that up with the I think the second and third singles from the album, again dispatched from Alveston Place. This is the second one. This is I Need You. This is a really good track, by the way, I Need You. I think it's an excellent song, but it should be a Depeche Mode song. Backed with 2 new tracks, Closer and Breathe. And then remixes by Ladytron and Gabriella Dresden of I Need You. And the DVD single features an acoustic version of Black and Blue. Again, where have we seen that? Another Ladytron remix of I Need You, and a Dirty Sticky dub mix of Dirty Sticky Floors. So the DVD single really pushing that value for money button there for you by giving you nothing very much exciting at all. Graphically, looks like you know, you could look at it and go, yeah, that really, I mean, from a trademark perspective, is you kind of go, if you didn't know it said Dave Gahan on there and it just had random text, and you go, that really looks like it could be a Depeche Mode thing, doesn't it? And I don't think that was unintentional. And then the final single was Bottle Living, which is quite good, again, not amazing, but quite good. Although, obviously, Dave being a songwriter and being new to songwriting, there was an element of all of the songs that he was writing being songs about, well, I used to take a lot of drugs, kids, don't do it, it's very bad, not good at all. And you kind of go, okay, so you've got a song about living for the bottle, called Bottle Living. Oh, I guess that's about guess that one's about drugs, right? And addiction. It's back with a radio mix of Hold On and a remix by Tom Craft, whoever he is, of Bottle Living. There's another 3 remixes now, but this time 2 mixes of Bottle Living. There's the Machine Head lyric mix, which isn't. Well, it says it's remixed by Machine Head. I'm not convinced that's the case, because listening to it, I didn't think, oh yeah, definitely Machine Head there. Might be like opening a Pink Floyd single and suddenly finding you've got Deep Purple remix on there, or someone going, yeah, we're going to do a Donna Summer remix of Another Brick in the Wall. And then we've got Bottle Living, which is remixed by Marco Haas, and Hidden Houses, a Kowalski remix. So yeah, remix is the last bastion of the creatively uninspired. Oh, here's a format you haven't seen before: the DVD single, coming straight at you like it's 2003. Featuring the video for Bottle Living, which I'm sure you're all on tenterhooks and bated breath to find out exactly what happens to it. I'll give you a clue. Having not seen the video before, I'm guessing it's Dave Gahan walking moodily around and lip syncing to it in New York. And then we've got the Tom Craft dub mix of Bottle Living and a Machine Head synth mix of Bottle Living. Again, remixed by Machine Head. Not sure if it's the actual rock Machine Head or if it's another Machine Head. Because bearing in mind the band I was in, Volume, there are more than one band with the name of Volume. There's more than one band with the name Recall. There could be the process of what's known as simultaneous discovery. That is the Paper Monsters album. The bottom line is, it sounds like Depeche Mode B-sides. Some are quite good, some pretty damn forgettable, truth be told. And the last release from this period was the Loverman EP by Martin Gore, which features remix of Loverman and Das Lied von Einsamen Mädchen. I'm sure you can laugh at my stupid British way of pronouncing that German phrase there. So remixes by Turner, Lawrence and Bowler, as well as a radio edit of Loverman. And it also came with a DVD, which was stuffed to the gills with 5 whole songs recorded live in Milan in 2003 on Martin Gore's exhausting 8-date tour. For comparison, Dave Gahan played something like 90 shows on his tour, so he played to both also venues that are approximately normally twice the size as well. So for every 5 people that Martin Gore played to, Dave Gahan probably played to 100, but it was through choice. So there you go. The 5 songs from this Milan DVD, by the way, all on YouTube, are In My Time of Dying Stardust, I Cast a Lonesome Shadow, Lost in the Stars, and Love Man. It's a really good show. I wish the whole of the show had been released, because I really, really love seeing Martin Gore in a solo capacity. Really interesting. But no, that wasn't to be. It's also got the Counterfeit 2 electronic press kit. Is there a word more terrifying than an electronic press kit? I don't know. Very possibly DVD single or cast single, depending on your point of view. And then it all went very, very quiet, of course. And then we had the first of what felt like a series of contractual obligations. Late 2004 saw the release of Depeche Mode, the remixes, 8104. No particular rhyme or reason. A 23rd anniversary isn't exactly one that most bands celebrate for some reason. This was released, of course, on a 6 LP box set, 3 CDs, a CD, but was prefaced by perhaps one of the most controversial of the Depeche Mode singles, the Linkin Park remixes of Enjoy the Silence 2004, which got a CD single release here, backed with the Goldfrapp remix of Halo, which, by the way, the Goldfrapp remix of Halo is the arrangement the band played on the on both the small number of dates on the Spirit tour that they did play it, and on the Delta Machine tour. But was, I think, really interesting. And then also there was the I think the Timo Mars, sorry if I've mispronounced that, and the Ewan Pearson remixes of Enjoy the Silence here, and a Black Strobe remix of Something to Do on a CD single. And the third and final CD single, this has the best mixes on, by the way, ladies and jelly spoons. The Richard X extended mix of Enjoy the Silence, the Ewan Pearson extended mix, the Circadia remix of World in My Eyes, and a Brat mix of Mercy and You, which is absolutely fantastic and should be better known than just being on this CD single and the associated 12 inches. There was also some 12 inches that came out at the time. Here was the first of the Enjoy the Silence 12 inches. This is the Timo Mars extended mix and the Ewan Pearson extended mix on a 2-track 12-inch. Really giving you value for money there. This is, oddly enough, just called the Remixes 04. So this isn't Enjoy the Silence, this is just the remixes. And this actually is the Black Strobe remix of Something to Do. So Black Strobe remixed it, and Something to Do got its release in 2004 as a genuine Depeche Mode single. It probably charted at about number 93 for a week. It's also got the Cicadia mix of World in My Eyes and the Rex the Dog dub mix of Photographic, which appears on the album. And then the third single released at roughly the same time, Depeche Mode Remixes 04. This is the Goldfrapp remix of Halo. So the Goldfrapp remix of Halo again got its separate own standalone release as a 12-inch only. I'm guessing this one got a bit higher. I guess this one got to number 73 in the charts for a week before crashing out. And it's also backed with a colder remix of Clean and the Ulrich Schnass mix of Little 15. Ulrich Schnass, I think, worked with Tangerine Dream in their later years when they were terrible and old. Sorry. There was also a couple of unusual bootleg 12 inches. This is one of them, the Jack mixes of People Are People. I bought this. It's most definitely an unofficial 12-inch of remixes that aren't particularly good, but I bought this because I was placing an order on Discogs actually, and I thought, well, for an extra £3, I'm buying the other stuff anyway. I might as well throw this in and see what it's like. The answer is not particularly amazing. And then all of that was wrapped up in what was clearly the contractual obligation that was Remixes 8104. I hate this album. I think it's bloody terrible. The reason being is that it's not sequential, it's not chronological. It feels like someone's thrown a bunch of songs into an iTunes playlist, press shuffle, and then walked away. Fuck it, that's good enough, isn't it? Yeah, can I go and cash my check now, guys? And expecting us to part with our hard-earned cash. Now, Depeche Mode as a band, as you probably know, are very, very prolific in the world of remixing. They have had a lot of remixes. Some of their remixes have been some of the very best remixes of all time. One of the remixes that's not on here is the Hijack mix by Bomb the Bass of Strangelove, which, as far as I'm concerned, is not just the best mix of Strangelove, it's one of the very best things Depeche Mode have ever released. Yet it isn't on the remix album, which is bizarre. Yes, it's on the second remix album because there's a second remix album, but it's not on here. So it opens with the split mix of Never Let Me Down Again, which is 10 minutes long. Well, 9 minutes 30 seconds. And really and honestly, that should be the very last track on the compilation, not the first. It then goes to Policy of Truth, the Rio mix of Shout, an Air mix of Home, the Blind mix of Strangelove. Oh, that's not very good. The Spiritual Guidance mix of Rush, an Afghan Surgery remix of I Feel You, Barrel of the Gun, the Beatmasters mix of Route 66, the DJ Muggs remix of Free Love. Why? Why that? That's terrible. Use the Bon Harris mix. I Feel Loved, the Chambers mix, and the Shizzo mix of Just Can't Get Enough. Then there's Personal Jesus, the Pump mix, not the best 12-inch version, the Mode to Joy mix, World in My Eyes, which really should have opened one of the CDs, by the way, as opposed to being the second track on the second CD. Get the Balance Right, Everything Counts, Breathing in Fumes, the Depeche Mode remix of Stripped, Painkiller, Useless, In Your Room, Dream On, the Dave Clark acoustic version, the Speedy J mix of It's No Good, a remix of Master and Servant by On New Sound, and one of the remixes of Enjoy the Silence. The third disc on this set, by the way, is almost exclusively unreleased mixes. The remixes which you haven't had before, well, at least most of it is. So there's a remix of Question of Lust, which only appeared on a cassette single. There's the Random Carpet mix of Walking in My Shoes. There's Adrian Sherwood's Dog Shit remix of Our People People. Daniel Miller's mix of World in My Eyes. That's really good, by the way, but it's so similar to the LP mix. There's really no point including it on here. There's Danny Tadalia's Labour of Love remix of I Feel Love. That's fantastic. That should be the only version of I Feel Love that's on here. And I don't think it is. No, there's a Chambers remix on CD1. Then we have It's No Good by Club 69. Photographic, Rex the Dog dub mix, which you've seen on the 12-inch over there. The Little 15 remix by Ulrich Schnash. the Head Cleaner remix of Nothing, which really actually draws a very direct link between. Because if you listen to a lot of Depeche songs, actually, some of the songs like Nothing, Rush, um, Personal Jesus, actually really heavily influenced by the Stooges and especially the Raw Power album. Think about how they're being played on the dominant instrument, which is the guitar. You listen to a song like Nothing, you could imagine Iggy Pop yelling that out in 1969 on the Funhouse LP, by the way. And so Head Cleaner really do take Nothing back to the basics, go to the roots and try and do a standard kind of rock interpretation of the track, which is really good. We have an LFO remix of Lied to Me, the Colder mix of Clean, the Goldfrapp remix of Halo, and it ends on the Linkin Park remix of Enjoy the Silence. It's shoddy. It's out of sequence. It's missing some of the very best mixes. There is a sense of contractual obligation, a lack of care and due diligence and thought that's been applied to it. When the track listing for this was stuck together, nobody ever sat down and went, what's it going to sound like if you just stick it into a car stereo and listen to it? Is it going to have an ebb? Is it going to have a flow? Is it going to feel like an LP? No, it isn't. It's going to feel like a bunch of crappy remixes stuck together in a totally fucking random order, and it doesn't make any sense. Remixes 81 to 04 is a bad album. It's a compilation of remixes assembled with no care or thought for either what the best mixes are or even if it's going to make sense to listen to. It's not even chronological. So if you'd have opened with, say, the Shout, then Just Can't Get Enough, then maybe, let's say, the longer mix of Leave in Silence, which isn't on here, and then maybe put the remix of Get the Balance Right, Everything Counts, maybe one of the better remixes of People are People than the absolutely awful one by Adrian Sherwood that's on there. Maybe go for one of the remixes of Master and Servant that's not absolutely terrible. Where's Shake the Disease? Where's It's Called a Heart, for example? Where's A Question of Time, which appears about 20 times on the subsequent remix compilation? A Question of Lust is shoved away on the third disc, and it's kind of like an afterthought where suddenly someone, oh god, we haven't got A Question of Lust on there. Where's the Black Tulip remix of Black Celebration? Where's any of this stuff? It's not on here. I bought the remixes for £11.99 for 3 CDs, which working out at about £4 a CD, roughly about the price that you'd be charged for a CD single. And that's very much how I approach this as a value proposition. I looked at it and went, well, it's got some remixes I haven't got. I'll probably pay 12 quid for those individual remixes on individual CD singles. Okay, I'll go for it. I was not impressed with this. I'm still not impressed with it. The track listing is shoddy. It's incoherent. It's unchronological. Some of the best remixes are missing. So, for example, there's no remix of Behind the Wheel on here either. There's no remix of, there's none of the original 1990 mixes of Enjoy the Silence. The Hands and Feet mix, by the way, which is absolutely magnificent, not on here. Screw off, mate. We've got a remix by Linkin Park and we've got a remix by Timo Maas. And by the way, the Richard X remix is the best one that was commissioned in 2004. Nope, not on here. Absolutely not. And then you haven't got, you've got In Your Room, you've got the Jeep Rock mix, which is pretty good, but you haven't got the remix of High Love. Useless. I think it's Useless on here. Yeah, the Kruger and Dorfmeister session version of Useless is on here, but the version of I Feel Loved is the frankly terrible Chambers remix, and the version of Free Love is not the Bon Harris mix, which is the best version. So it's a terrible set of remixes. If it was up to me, I would have arranged it chronologically. I maybe would have bookended the start and end of each disc with something that felt like the starting or end of an album. I would have closed the thing with the Never Let Me Down split mix. I would have put the Bon Harris mix of Free Love on there because, by the way, it's so much better. It's embarrassing how much better it is than the version that's on here. I would have put remixes of Happiest Girl, Sea of Sin, and the Slow Slide mix of My Joy. So if you were buying the album, you sat there going, oh, I'll buy it for the new songs, then you'd have had, Shout, Shout, Happiest Girl, Sea of Sin, My Joy would have been on there, and Painkiller. So, well, at least we've got 5 tracks which haven't been on any other album. But no, this is a really awful compilation. Pick it up cheap or don't pick it up at all. It's really not worth your time or energy to spend big bucks on this. And of course, there was a 4th disc, which was linked to this extra exclusive website, which you had to pay for extra downloads, which is linked on here. Secret website access just to another shop for more download remixes. And those download remixes were largely inessential, apart from the Bogus Brothers mix of Little 15, which is phenomenal. And there was a Black Sun mix of Rush, which was remixed by artists called Coil, who no longer exist, which is well worth listening to. But aside from that, this secret website access was a con. Do not be fooled. It's like a cat that tells you it's hungry when it's just been fed. It is lying to you. Don't listen to it. That is Depeche Mode from 2003 to 2004. One half decent covers album, which sounded like Depeche Mode B-sides that were good. One solo album that sounded like Depeche Mode B-sides that were bad. And one truly no good, terrible, very bad indeed, poorly sequenced, contractual obligation remixes CD box set. That was 2003 to 2004. It was a dark time to be a fan of Depeche Mode, because I sat there going, okay, is Martin going to do anything? Is Dave going to just end up touring for the rest of his life, playing 5 Depeche Mode songs and 10 indeterminate solo songs with a fairly average band for the rest of his life? Is that it? And the answer was no, thank God, because in 2005 the band released their umpteenth studio album, Playing the Angel, one of the very best of the post-Allen years, which is the subject of the next video about Depeche Mode, which will come up in about 6 to 8 weeks, depending on how lazy and tired I am in the meantime. In the meantime, please do subscribe. Take care of yourself and each other. Stay beautiful, and I will hopefully see you all again soon. To quote a great movie star and not the terrible Prime Minister, hasta la vista, baby. See you later.